Okay, we're in the table of tables, alphabetical, and we're on the letter D. Divines may meet with here. Great reading of ecclesiastical histories, as many practices of councils as. Variety of reading, well, let's see. So, great reading of ecclesiastical histories. Eusebius is very off-sided. See most pages of the 10 persecutions. Dorotheus, Synops, Joanne de Mont, Regali, Hyron, his cattle script is Yoder. With infinite more in the 10 persecutions and throughout the book. Many practices of councils, as against the popes, for priests' marriage, catalog of them gathered from time to time without the pope. That at Brixia, his acts against Hildebrand. That at Constance, his acts against Bohemians. The act of the council, the Lateran, Rome, Worms, Antioch, Tricas, Constantinople. Variety, divines may meet with here, variety of readings of very many of the fathers. 13 fathers alleged copiously against transubstantiation. Many fathers alleged for priest marriage. 12 fathers sundry times alleged for their judgments in these words, "This is my body." Observations and expositions of the gloss. School divinity. Thomas Aquinas, Scotus, Catharinus, Opus Operatum, Aquinas, his founding purgatory. Let's see, divines may here meet with. Polemical divinity in choice disputations in Edward VI's time, at Oxford and at Cambridge, in the first convocation in Queen Mary's time. In pithy discourses stating questions touching the 6 articles in Henry VIII's days, faith and justification, works in the law, sin, penance and repentance, the difference between the law and the gospel, free will, invocation and adoration of saints and angels and so on, the sacraments. I would guess these volume 1, page 36 would be the first of the 3 volumes on the 36th page, with infinite more. Positive orthodox divinity delivered in treatises and theorems as touching the law, the gospel, works, a tract, the heads of religion in 20 principles, the sum of Paul's doctrine in 19 positions, of diverse other points in some pages. Genesis, let's see, I'm not going to read all of this. And I see Deuteronomy, 1 Kings, notes of a sermon of spiritual meaning of Sarah and Hagar, sundry propositions opening the 10 Commandments, the meaning of Aaron's linen breeches. So let's see, textionary divinity and clear expositions of scriptures, as we will instance in some more special in this table. In the quotations sometimes, which are in the great volumes, do now answer to these in this table. Let the reader understand the cause to be that this table sets them right, when as in printing by oversight they were put wrong. So I guess this may be a table of errors? Of the offering the best things to the Lord, compared with Luke, urged in the case of recalling decrees, a prosopopoeia thence against bloody persecutions, urged against merit, lean not to thine own wisdom, urged against. Isaiah 56:1, A Sermon Upon It, Volume 1, page 542. Urge excellently against popish seeming abstinence from women. He shall honor the God of forces and a God whom his father knew not. The parable of him falling among thieves expounded. The three parables expounded. A sermon upon it. Let's see. Oh, I see. So Daniel, Hosea, Amos, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah. The parable of the ephah and the talent of lead largely expounded. I will curse your blessings applied to persecutors. That which goeth into the mouth goeth down into the belly. The papist changed non-sick into quad-sick. A large discourse upon it, this abomination of desolation, expounded of the Mass. A large exposition of diverse fathers. The Gospel of Mark in an abridgment of Matthew. The parable of him falling among thieves, I see. John, verse upon which is showed in two positions how much a Christian is possessed of in this life of heaven glory. Of the time Paul's coming to Rome. That sentence, faith only justifies. Circumcision of seal of, averred to contain the terms of a general definition for all sacraments. Whatsoever is not of faith is sin. Compare the position grounded upon it. O death, where is thy sting? Thence is argued how far death is to be feared and desired. Prove yourselves. Greek observations upon it. Mortify your earthly members. The man of sin expounded. Of the time of Paul's sufferings mentioned in that chapter. Tyndale's positions of Philemon's servant Onesimus is running. Whether that epistle be St. Paul's, Hebrews. Upon which is showed in two positions how many things a man may believe and yet have no true saving faith. Whence is discussed what that faith is that hath no works, and how far a true faith worketh. He that hath this hope in himself purgeth himself as he is pure. Compare the positions grounded on the same. The horses and the seals are expounded largely. The mystical numbers there spoken expounded. Rome spiritually is Babylon. If thou canst not, Christian reader, remember the quotations of book, chapter, and verse of some places whose exposition thou wouldest find, but canst remember the words, then have recourse to the index or table at the later end of the book, wherein the alphabet of the more principal words of sentences thou shalt find diverse places of more special controversy and difficulty noted, where their expositions may be found in this book of Martyrs, Ecclesiastical. Ecclesiastical persons may read history in this book, not only of ecclesiastical officers of most kind throughout the book, ecclesiastical acts of the archbishops and bishops in sundry dioceses, but also a most ample and pithy discussing of the bounds of ecclesiastical authority in a parliament of France. Farmers may here meet with wholesome country divinity in a style suitable to their place in the beginning of the first and third volumes, and in particular in the complainant prayer of the plowman. Geographers may here read descriptions of England, monarchy, autarky, a heptarchy of 7 Saxon kingdoms, 1 kingdom of British kings, of many other kingdoms. Geographers may view tables of the countries, provinces, and kingdoms of Asia the Less, Europe, and Africa. Geographers may peruse a map of the Saxonish heptarchy of this kingdom in former times. Heralds may here find not only the history but also the genealogy of 19 Saxon monarchs, of Edward IV, and of many more emperors, kings, dukes, earls, barons throughout the first volume. Historians may in this history read several histories, and that somewhat largely, as Asian, Babylonish, British, Sicilian, Danish, English, French, German, Greek, Hungarian, Jewish, Irish, Italian, Kentish, Saxon, beginning the heptarchy, Low Country, Laodicean, Mysian, and Superior. Throughout the book of French martyrs, other martyrs of the Commonwealth and Kingdom of France, of German martyrs of the German Empire, histories. Historians may in this book read Minor, Major, Napoleon, Norman, Orleans, Persian, Quinqui, Ecclesiae, Roman, Saracen, Spanish, Syrian, Scottish, Turkish, Tartarian, Venetian, Wallachian, Xanthus, York Danish, Zacynthus, of the Church, its bishops, and their see, of the Commonwealth, the Empire, and emperors. Justices have here a multitude of legal precedents and proceedings set before their eyes of very good purpose in the 2nd and 3rd volume. Excellent exhortations of Edward VI to them to help in reformation of religion. Kings of diverse ages and times do here so shine with the diadems of excellent government and crowns of due praise that they allure the eyes of successors in future ages to look hitherward to behold them. Learned King Alured alias Alfred, prudent King Henry II, chosen arbiter between kings, warlike King Henry V, anti-pope King Henry VIII, Christian King Lucius, preaching King Oswald, pious and devout King Edward VI. Lawyers may read here common law and civil law. In common law, a parallel between Jews and other kingdoms' judicial laws. See the margin. In Volume 1, page 638, see the margin. Summaries of several kings' statute laws and notes of their parliaments. When there was no law to burn men for opinions, the rise of the statute ex officio, the rise of the statute for burning for opinions examined, some cases disputed, see in the casuist, articles of Magna Charta and touching Charta Foresta, in civil law, ecclesiastical laws and sundry propositions, 8 kings' ecclesiastical laws whereby the church was governed before the conquest, canon law delivered in, the apostles' canons as they call them, Pope's canons, a censure of them. Linguists shall meet with in this history for their studies, French quotations with others of like kind, Hebrew derivations and observations from what it signifies, Dutch etymologies, Greek readings, with abundant more in that page, writings in Saxon, and Persian tongue. Merchants may here find a rare example of one that was a martyr as well as a merchant, merchandising as well for godliness is gain, for goodness as well as goods, in the mirror of piety and patience, William Gardner, suffering torment to death for Christ in Portugal. Nobility, in Duke Humphrey, Lord Cromwell, Lord Cobham, in the history shines to their future posterity. Old age may here with its dim eyes see plain patterns to lead him in the plain way, and encourage him, seeing he's so nigh his end, rather to be dissolved, if he be called unto it, in flames of fire to be with Christ, then in this last period of his life to deny him, and by at his death be denied Christ, heaven, and anything else but only hell and damnation. One lively example is, compare, another more Photinus, a very old man, suffers for Christ. Polycarpus, who coming to the place of martyrdom to die for Christ, and being persuaded to turn, and he should be discharged, answered, 86 years have I been Christ's servant, and he never yet hurt me. How then may I now speak evil of him which hath thus preserved me? Volume 1, page 55, chapter 2, line 70, I guess. Politicians. Politicians may be hence furnished with many observations touching matters of state and government, of commonweals, not only laid down in the rule, but proved in the practice. For example, 32 emperors' lives and deaths exemplified the issue of too much severity and cruelty in government. Count the margin. Decay of religion decays a commonwealth, overthrows the governor, as may be seen in Richard II. Greatness of a state without true empire of government is a weakness to the same, as is plain in the Turkish dominions by the story of them. The mischief of several factions in the state, exemplified in Henry VIII, his government, Volume 2 throughout. A particular instance, see Volume 2, page 566, Column 2. Dissension in a kingdom opens the door to foreign invasion. See in the example of Christians thus letting in the Turk, the Roman Empire and the Jewish nation ruined by refusing Christ, the many changes of state and the causes of them may be seen in this story more than in most, as in the coming of the Saxons, Danes, Normans, Scots, Picts, as also in Richard II, his reign, Henry VI. Q. Queen Catherine, Queen Jane, Queen Elizabeth, make this story worthy to be read of the royal eyes of that sex. Registers of ancient records may here meet with abundance of those thoughts, the history. Soldiers may here behold the fights of the Turks at Constantinople, of the French against the Pope, of the Germans, Zisca, Procopius, Capistranus. Soldiers may here behold the fights of the English throughout the history with Saxons, Danes, Scots, Picts, Normans, of the Grecian Scanderbius against the Turk, in all which see notable stratagems and valor. Tradesmen of most sorts shall find here rare patterns of piety of life and patience in suffering death for Christ in men of their own calling throughout the 3rd volume. Virgins may behold here for their instruction mirrors of valor in the maid that defended Lesbos against the Turks, when the men had even given over defending it. Of patience and meekness in Rosalina maid, quietly suffering her hand to be burned for Christ. Of courageous dying for Christ in the admirable example of Blandina. Women have here rare examples of chastity in the nobleman's wife of Rome, who would rather die than be defiled with lustful Maxentius, Volume 1, page 110, column 2, line 18. Of martyrdom in Symphorissa and her 7 children cruelly martyred for Christ. Of Sophia and her 3 children martyred. In many more, women, sometimes mother and daughter, embracing flames for Christ in the 3rd volume. Young men may here learn to know the God of their fathers, to remember their Creator, yea, Redeemer, in the days of their youth, and in their youth to suffer for him that suffered for them in the flower of his age. In the example of the famous young man martyr Germanicus, in the example of Origen, a youth that vehemently desired martyrdom, of Ponticus, of but 15 years old, admirably suffering for Christ, and a child martyr in Volume 1, page 116, chapter 2, line 20. Thus, of multitudes of instances we have given but a very few, wherein this university of godly learning may profit any indigenous reader. No such can come amiss, but that he may go away the better from this book after his reading it in himself, to be not in fault. Here is in this book, to settle the judgment in the truth, thousands that have subscribed to it in blood, to win the affections, the most pathetical speeches of dying saints, to encourage practice. Here are files and ranks of Christian soldiers to muster thee in Christ's battle. Here is zeal burning. To encourage practice, here is zeal burning, till it be in flames of fire. Here is godliness, which when it is scoffed reviles not, when it is burned cries not. Here is devotion praying sweetly, in Constantine Emperor, Luther, Lady Jane, and many others. A chronology of Master Fox, his martyrology, an advertisement to the reader, that here is presented unto him a compendious chronological table of the most remarkable things contained in the whole Book of Martyrs. I will continue this in the next video, as this looks important to do separate. Thank you.